there was a God-shaped hole in my heart, and I tried to fill it with so many things. And it all just led to more hurt. When I left him, I ran away. He never left me. My name is Claire, and my story is about the reckless love of God. I remember even skipping through church as a really small child, just talking to God. I loved Jesus. And there were things that took me away from loving God. And I wandered and I strayed. It was around 14 years old that I was abused, and my life started to go downhill after that. And I ended up with an eating disorder that almost killed me. I had severe depression, anxiety. Sometimes I could barely get out of bed. And I didn't know the cause at the time, but I was so hurt and I was so depressed and so sad that I let God go. I pushed him away. I didn't want anything to do with him, and I completely rejected him even at one point. And looking back on all of it, he never rejected me. And as I look back on even the attempts to take my life, I see his angels protecting me. And I see how much he loved me through all of the things that I went through, and how he cared for me so much and still does. And I hope that my story, at least for one person, can give them some hope, give them some light, in that if you are struggling, God still loves you and God cares for you no matter how you feel right now. So it was a couple years of this struggling, self-harm, eating disorder, just a lot of darkness in my life and a lot of hurt. I was hurting, my family was hurting, and it went on like that. I went through a lot of therapy, and I was just not walking with the Lord. I somehow managed to keep a job and get through university eventually. But I was relying on my own strength, and that never goes well. And there was a God-shaped hole in my heart, and I tried to fill it with so many things, different things, and agnosticism, universe beliefs, maybe. I experimented with a lot of drugs, and it all just led to more hurt and more pain and more loneliness. God blessed me with meeting my now husband during the time where I was hurting a lot. And my now husband, Curtis, was not a believer, but I do believe God brought us together. And I mean, he's baptized now, and so that was a huge blessing for me, and it still is. In 2018, I started going through some physical pain that later I found out was a spiritual attack. I had opened doors with one thing or another in my past, or doors had been opened that I ended up with severe abdominal pain with no cause. I went to doctors. Nobody could tell me what it is. They did different tests, and it was in a hospital here in the Czech Republic, where I used to live, that I ran across Kelsie Mullen, who does the Redemptive Storytelling. I ran into her randomly, and I was holding my test papers, which said, "Nothing's wrong." And she walked up to me, and I hadn't seen her in years, and she prayed for me, and I was weeping. I had no idea what was going on. She took my hands and she said, "Let me be the light of Jesus for you." And time went on. I kind of pushed it to the sidelines. The pain actually stopped completely after months and months of intense physical pain, having to drop out of school, never knowing when it would basically attack me. And then it stopped all of a sudden, and all of these very strange things started happening, and I felt a really intense presence with me. And I'm not going to go into all of it, but there were things moving in my apartment. We saw things with my husband. There was a really heavy energy there. And I still wasn't walking with the Lord, but I started to feel that something was very, very wrong. Nothing should be inhabiting my space. Even if I wasn't really walking with Jesus, I knew there was something very wrong. So I called up Kelsie, and she determined that it was definitely a demonic attack that was affecting me. And the pain came back when she put her hand on my stomach and prayed for Jesus to take the pain away, and it started fighting. I truly believe that when you fight against them, they try to fight harder. And school was starting in 2 weeks, and this needed to be dealt with. This couldn't stay with me. The pain was back. It was distressing, and we went together to a prayer meeting. And I had to list off everything in my life that could have opened doors to demonic attack. All of the hurt, all of the drugs, all of the sins, and all the pain that I went through, all the things that I could have done or could have been done to me. And we made this list, and then Kelsie, Stacy, and her husband from Prague Christian Fellowship, from that ministry, started praying over all of those things. And it was painful, and it was intense, and we came to a point where I was told to forgive someone who I thought I could never forgive in my life. I held this resentment because I was hurt so much by this person. And Kelsie told me, "You need to forgive him." And I asked God, "Help me, God, help me forgive this person." And in about a second, I forgave him. All the bitterness, all the hurt was gone. In a second. I had been harboring this for years and years, and God gave me the strength to forgive him. And I stood up, and for the first time in years, I don't know, maybe 8 years, I sang and I praised God. And words came out of my mouth that I didn't even know I had in myself. Like, I am your bride. And I felt myself walking through a field of flowers in a white dress. And Christ was coming towards me. Because I know now that he loves me so much, and through all the things that I went through, he still pursued me, even if I was unfaithful. And even despite that really intense, spiritual, beautiful experience, I still proved how fickle humans can be. And I went away, and I still was not walking with the Lord. I still didn't. I was still hurt, and I just I pushed it away. I had my life to deal with, and God still pursued me. It was a couple months later that some more things started to happen, and I started feeling like the presence was back. There even came a point where the demon revealed itself to me, and it spoke to me, and it asked me questions, and it was the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced, is actually seeing it for real. And it was sitting on top of me. And I don't know where, actually I do. I know where I got this strength. I got this strength from God above. I put my hands together above my head, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Jesus will destroy you." And it vanished completely. Kelsie came, and she blessed the house with some other believers, and things were calm for a while, and I was still fickle, and I still didn't really care about walking with the Lord, despite all of these things that had happened to me, all of these amazing experiences. But God didn't give up. I moved to California in March of 2020, and we all know those times were really hard with the lockdowns, and I didn't have a job at the time, so I started taking care of my now husband's grandmother, and she was dealing with a lot of grief. She was in a wheelchair, she had dementia, and I bought this book at Goodwill to collage from, because I love doing art therapy with her. And I opened the book, and it was a poetry book about God's creation and about dealing with grief from the loss of a husband. And it was Cecilia Ward's faith, her gentle, trusting faith of Jesus, the one thing that she never lost. When she had lost everything, even her mental capacity, her husband, her mobility, she still loved Jesus. And my heart finally melted because of her faithfulness. And in September 2020, I opened my Bible for the first time in about 10 years, and I have never looked back. Being a Christian can sometimes be harder in this world, but it is undeniably better because I'm not alone, and I know that no matter what, Jesus has me. I started a ministry with my church in Tracy, California, and I do art sessions at a homeless shelter. I am so blessed with being able to bless others with the gift of art. And that dream was planted in my heart when I was in the mental hospital with my eating disorder and I experienced art therapy. Everything painful that I went through, God used for His glory and for beauty in my life now. Now, when I'm talking to the people who are struggling with homelessness and they tell me their stories, I'm able to tell them about Jesus. They talk about their depression, and I can say, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I know what depression is. And I understand, and Jesus is the one who helped me overcome it. My husband and I were baptized together. I was rededicated in the ocean in Southern California. And despite everything that we've went through, the beauty is greater than the pain. And God uses every hurt, every pain for His glory in His own time.